Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sophie, aka Peachycraft. Today I'm filming an art haul and it's a watercolour art haul, one of the main mediums I use. And today's purchases, specifically with the watercolour palette, were extremely intentional, each specific colour I chose. And I'll go through that a bit later when I'm going through the actual colours themselves. But what I'll do is I'll just get right into the art haul and just start talking about everything. Okay, so let's go through the paper that I got. So I actually used my last sheet of Archer's watercolour paper, and it was the cold press version, the one with the green front. And I used the last sheet, and obviously I need some more because I tend to use only cotton paper because watercolour paints just work the best on it. They absorb better, they spread better. It's generally when you paint with watercolour, you want to use cotton, 100% cotton paper for the best results. So I thought I'd try a few different brands as well as stocking up on my favourite brand. So I'm sure many of you have heard of Bahong watercolour paper. I got this off Temu, I think. And this is the actually rough version. So typically I use cold press, it's just what I'm used to and what I prefer. But I decided to give rough a go because I do like a textured paper. Not too keen on hot press just because I do like granulation. And granulation techniques tend to work better with a more textured paper. So yeah, I thought I'd give this a go just as Bahong paper is a bit more affordable. And this one is 10.2 inches by 7 inches, 300 GM squared, whatever that means. So yeah, I thought I'd give it a go and see how I get on with this one. And then, like I said, I really like Archer's paper, so I decided to restock on this. But again, I decided to give the rough version a go just to see how I get on with it. The thing with my old Archer's watercolour paper is I'd had it years. And I can't remember, there's something with watercolour paper, something about the binding or something like that, where it does actually expire. And I did definitely notice that with my old watercolour paper from Archer's. Bear in mind, I had it years, so I didn't use it quick enough like you're meant to. And when I painted on top of it, there was loads of white speckles shining through. Let me just grab... Let's see, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but particularly like on the indigo. Let me just zoom in a bit. Can you see like how speckled that is? And I think that's because the binding in the paper went off. So with this new paper that I've got, I definitely intend to use it a bit quicker and definitely get my use out of it. So sticking on the theme of watercolour paper, I also bought Fabriano watercolour paper. Again, 100% cotton, and this is cold pressed, what I'm used to. I've never actually used Fabriano paper, but it was a little more affordable than Archer's, so I decided to give it a go. I do also really like the Kanzin Moulin du Roi watercolour paper. That is also one of my favourites, and it's not cheap by any means, but it's definitely more affordable compared to a brand like Archer's, and as 100% cotton watercolour paper goes. So yeah, I got this one as well, and this is 9 by 12 inches, and you get 20 sheets. And I forgot to say the size of the Archers as well. This is 9 by 12, so the same size, and you get 12 sheets in that one. So you can see the difference. You get 20 sheets with the Fabriano and 12 in the Archers. So just a little compare and comparison. Then I also picked up a sketchbook. And this isn't 100% cotton, but it is marketed as watercolour paper. It's from Moleskine, and it's the actual A4 version. I have used a Moleskine sketchbook before. I've used a smaller A5 one. And the paper is really textured. It's kind of got a unique texture to it. And it creates really unique granulation techniques on the pages. So I thought, it's been a while since I've used a Moleskine sketchbook, so I thought I'd pick up a newer one in a bigger size, and I don't think it says how many, oh wait, no, you get 60 pages. I don't know if that's 60 actual pages or if it's 30 double-sided, and this is £130 or 200 GM squared, so a little bit less than the Watercolor paper, the 100% cotton brands that I bought. They are all 300 GM squared, but from what I remember, despite this not being cotton, it definitely held up well with Watercolor, so it'll be exciting to revisit that and kind of give it a go. See if I still like it like I used to. When I did use a Moleskine sketchbook, it was when I just started out in watercolor, and obviously I've learned a lot since then. I've developed like techniques and things, so it might work for how I paint now. It might not. We'll just find out. Okay, so this is the main purchase of the art haul, and it's the most exciting, and this purchase was very intentional, and I've kind of split it into two groups because these ones I purchased and these ones I already had in my collection. And if you watched one of my most recent videos, it was my watercolor palette collection tour, you'll realize I have a lot of schmincke watercolors, and the thing when buying watercolor palettes, they always tend to have the same colors. If you buy a lot of watercolor, you'll know what I mean. They have the yellows, the reds, the blues, the browns, the yellow ochre. It's a kind of a set standard, and these are probably because these are the most universal colors for all artists. So like I say, these are universal colours for most artists, but if you're like me and you tend to use very specific colours, when you buy a palette like that, you get a lot of wastage. And what I mean is there's a lot of colours in a standard watercolour palette, which I won't even touch. And a lot of them tend to be like the browns, a lot of greens. I only use very specific greens. So what I decided to do with this one is I took some pans that I already had in my collection, and then I purchased more kind of like specialized colors that you wouldn't typically see in a standard layout, to make my own custom schmincke watercolor palette. And this is to kind of just save money, I suppose, because like I say, I buy a lot of schmincke palettes and I end up wasting money because a lot of the colors I know I will never use, but I buy them anyway. So I wanted to create something that was very customizable to me. So the actual tin I already had in my collection as well. So let's just go through the colours that I got. So I got indigo, which is just a nice deep dark blue. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that colour. I was kind of choosing between death blue and indigo, but I decided to go with indigo because I thought I could mix in some ultramarine to make it more like death blue, which is your Indan Throne blue. And then I got helio turquoise, which is PB16, one of my favourite colours. It's a very greeny blue. It's great for mixing bright mixes. And then I got schmincke violet, a nice pre-mixed purple. And I also got quinacridone purple, which is a more red leaning purple. This one's definitely more blue. And then I also got classic lemon yellow, a cool yellow for mixing, and chromium yellow hue deep, a nice deep yellow for mixing. I got brilliant opera rose, quinacridone magenta, permanent carmine, potter's pink, and then on this side, I don't know why I did that in such a weird order, but I have May green, ultramarine finest, transparent orange, burnt sienna, and quinacridone gold hue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap them, place them all in this palette on camera in an order which works best for me, and then I thought it'd be fun to test out one of the papers and swatch the colours as well. So let's just get on into that. Okay, so I didn't film me unwrapping them, and the reason is, do you know when you watch a video and it looks dead aesthetic, and people are like unwrapping them, they're coming off in one sheet and they just look really pretty and really nice? That didn't happen. When I was unwrapping them, the paper was just tearing. Some of the colours, particularly the staining colours like the quinacridone purple, the helio turquoise, the paper was sticking to the actual paint, so I had to like kind of struggle pulling that off. It was a whole thing. So I decided to just take them off camera. And I also wanted to write the names on the pans so I wouldn't forget what colour is which. I thought that'd be a smart move. And I thought, you know what, it'd just be way quicker if I did it off camera, because I'm not an organised person. You'd just be watching me faff for about 20 minutes. So I decided to do that so you can just watch me put them in the palette and struggle to do that instead. Okay guys, so I've laid out all the colours in an order that works best for me. And I also opened the Bahong Academy paper, the rough pressed, and I decided to give this a go. It's really textured. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it is really textured. It came a bit damaged, which is a bit annoying, but sometimes it happens. Still completely usable. It's just this corner's a bit damaged. So I just thought I'd point that out. So I'm just going to give the palette a quick spritz. This is something I do before I always start painting. It just helps the colours activate. And I'm going to swatch with my Silver Black Velvet size 8 round brush, and we'll just go through the colours. So the first one that I've got in my setup is Lemon Yellow, a nice cool yellow. I don't tend to use lemon yellow on its own. I use it very sparsely as a mixing colour, and again, I don't use it very often, so I probably didn't need a full pan of this, but it was in my collection, so I thought, well, I might as well use it and put it in my palette. Next is Chromium Yellow Hue Deep, and this is similar to New Gamboge, that kind of colour from Daniel Smith. This is a deep yellow, and this is one that I mainly use when creating my mixes. And this is just a warm toned yellow, and it's great for skin tones. It creates nice rich mixes. It's just a really nice colour. And then after that, we have Quinacridone Gold. I've got mine in a little half pan, and this is just a really intense kind of orangey bronze yellow. It's a really popular colour. It's very transparent, great for unique mixes. It makes beautiful greens and things like that. So I always try to have this in my palette if I can. And then a really popular colour of mine, because I'm not too keen on mixing certain colours, particularly oranges and purples. So I love a nice transparent orange. Not a opaque one. I definitely prefer transparent orange. Funnily enough, this is called transparent orange, and this is PO71. So it's just a nice bright orange for when you need one. And then I actually forgot to include a warm red in my haul, so I just grabbed one that I already had in my collection. This is Schmincke Cadmium Red Light. It's more of an opaque warm red, which isn't my favourite, but again, I had it in my collection and it needed using, so here it is in my palette. And then after that, we have Permanent Carmine. Cool reds are definitely my favourite. This is PV19. It's a great mixing red. And I also want to try, I think it's Ruby Red from Schmincke. Also Ruby, it's a PV19, but it leans slightly more pink. So I thought I'd just add this as well. Then after that is one of my favourite colours, which definitely is not light fast, but if that doesn't bother you and you can get over that, then it's a great colour because it's very beautiful. And this is Opera Rose. And the thing about, I've tried loads of different Opera Roses because it's one of my favourite colours. Daniel Smith's version is very granulating, whereas Schmincke's is a nice flat wash of colour. So depending on what you're after, different brands can achieve different things. If you want a nice flat one, which obviously this is a Schmincke palette, so that's what I'm going for. Schmincke is definitely best. And if you want a granulating one for textures and nice effects, Daniel Smith is a really nice one as well. So after that, you can see I've kind of like went in a rainbow order just because I think it looks pretty. It's aesthetically pleasing. So after that, I have quinacridone magenta, and I really love the quinacridone colours in most brands, and the reason is because they're really rich, clean colours. They create beautiful mixes, and they're very transparent. They're very transparent and vibrant, so they're great for mixing. So if you want something like that, definitely try Quin colours. They really are great. And then after that, we have another Quin colour, and this one is quinacridone purple, which I've never used or swatched before. So let's see what this is like. It's a really beautiful, more pinky purple, definitely purple still, but it's more on the red side, and it's really transparent. It looks really beautiful actually. Let me just add a bit more there, because obviously as watercolor dries, it does kind of dry a bit lighter. And then this is Schmincke Violet, which is definitely a more blue leaning purple. It says on the website it's best used on its own and not in mixes. So that's interesting. Maybe we can try it in mixes and on its own, but it's definitely a very vibrant, dark blue purple. And then next we have classic ultramarine. This is ultramarine finest. I actually prefer ultramarine blue just because the ultramarine finest is less granulating. Ultramarine blue is typically granulating. I think this one granulates slightly, but just not as much as your typical ultramarine blue. But Schmincke do offer both versions. They have ultramarine finest, which is this one, and then ultramarine blue as well. And then I also have indigo, which again I was kind of umming and ahhing between indigo and death blue, but I always thought I could just mix a bit of ultramarine blue in this to kind of get a more similar colour to death blue, indanform blue, more commonly known, for when I need that particular colour. And then one of my favourite colours, let me make sure I'm swatching the right one, is Helio Turquoise. And you can see straight away how just intensely pigmented and vibrant that is. It's a beautiful colour. It's great for mixes. I would say it's definitely not beginner friendly because it can really overwhelm mixes. You have to use it very sparingly. When I first got this colour, I didn't like it, but I now love it. And then I've only got one green in this palette, but I did think, oh, I can mix greens if I needed. So I decided to go for more of a unique, harder to mix green, which is May green. And it's just a really bright, almost neon looking kind of light yellow green. It's really pretty. You'll notice this is a really bright palette. And that's why I wanted to make my own custom palette, because I love bright colours. And then a typical mixing colour, I don't use it very much on its own, is burnt sienna. I tend to mix it with ultramarine blue, and that's it just creates really granulating greys. Kind of black if you mix it thick enough, but definitely really nice blue grey kind of granulating mixes. Let me add just a bit more pigment in there to get the full colour. And then last but not least is actually a colour I don't typically have in my palette, but I've heard great things about Schmincke's version, and that is Potter's Pink. And it's a really granulating colour. So there we have it, guys. There is my art watercolour haul, and then also the setup of my new customisable Schmincke palette. I thought I'd let the colours dry to show you, because obviously you can see the colour shift, but still they're really bright and really pigmented. That's why I like Schmincke, because the colours are really intense and you don't need much. But I wouldn't say they're beginner friendly, because like I mentioned before, when I was a beginner I didn't like them, and that's because they're so intense. They apply thickly if you have too much on your brush, and they can go shiny. So it's definitely a learning curve, but now that I'm more experienced, they are one of my more favourite brands. And I'm also impressed with this Bar Hung watercolour rough paper. It's actually a block, a watercolour block, which I didn't realise. I tend to buy just gummed pads because they're typically cheaper than blocks. But for the price, for this being a block and 100% cotton, I'm really impressed. This is a great deal. So let me know, do any of you have the same problems when you buy a typical set of watercolour? You feel like you're just wasting money because there's so many colours you know you won't use? Or are you more of the traditional colours route and you do tend to use most of the colours? Let me know what you thought of my colour selection. Obviously, it's very personal to me, and all of the other goodies that I bought. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment if you did enjoy the video, and I'll catch everyone in the next one. Bye, guys.